There's a story about a teacher who at the beginning of the year received his class roster, and right there next to the names of those students were numbers like 143, 138, 145, 158, 155, and this teacher began to do the happy dance because finally he had a classroom full of geniuses. He believed that these numbers were their IQs. So all throughout the year, he treated those students as if they were geniuses. He expected great things from them. He challenged them. He treated them with respect. He nurtured them. He guided them. And at the end of the year, he gave them grades of A's and B's. Well, the principal came to him and said, "How did this happen? How did you do this? What is going on?" And the teacher laughed and said, "Oh, it's easy to work with geniuses." And the principal said, "What are you talking about? These kids are the most challenged kids in school. In fact, I would go so far as the whole bunch of them are just the stupidest kids in the whole school. What did you do?" And the teacher just looked at the principal and said, "But I got the roster. I got their IQs right next to their names." And the principal just snorted and said, "Those were their locker numbers." But the teacher expected good things, and the students performed. Isn't that interesting? So scientific studies and the research from these scientific studies have shown that when we expect something good to happen, we tend to have that something good happen. So the more we have a positive expectation, the more we embody that expectation and have the results or the manifestation in our lives show up. So in Unity and New Thought, we believe this to be true. When we have a consciousness of positivity, when we have a positive attitude, when we put positive attention on something, when we have positive thoughts about something, we're actually putting our thoughts and attitudes and our mindset in alignment with God, we get positive results. We call it the law of mind action. We call it the law of expansion. We call it the law of sequence and consequence. It's actually all the same law. And that law works. It's working all the time. And the good news and the other good news is the positive thoughts that we have, the positive mindset that we choose to have and amplify then creates these positive and wonderful outcomes. So the lesson really is then to increase and amplify our awareness about our consciousness so that we can be really conscious about the thoughts we're having, and then we can have more of the opulence of God, because consequently, if we choose otherwise, if we put lesser attention on our conscious beingness, lesser attention on our way of being, we end up being subject to almost the capriciousness of the universe, or what sometimes we call luck. Now, Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics said one of the most self-limited attitudes of the whole human race is the belief in chance or luck. Occasionally, it is said, "I've been lucky my prayer was answered." However, God doesn't deal in luck. So many people think that prosperity and success are simply the results of good luck, and that financial reverses, unemployment, even illness are misfortunes or bad luck. There's a story about a man and a woman who'd been married many years, and the man was in his, chronologically challenged. That's what he was. He was in that time of his life, and he'd been very ill. He'd been in and out of a coma, and for months. And one time he came out of the coma and he says to his wife, "Do you know what?" And she got a little closer because she could hardly hear him. He says, "Do you know what? When I lost my job, you were there for me. When I started a business, but it was failing. You stood by me. When I was in a crossfire and got shot, you were there with me. And when I got old, you were there with me. And when I got sick, you were there with me. And you know what? And she smiles, and her heart starts to fill with warmth and love, and she leans in closer. He says, I'm beginning to think you're bad luck. Okay, it's a very bad joke. It's a very bad joke. But it perfectly illustrates what a lot of collective consciousness holds around the whole idea of luck. We believe that luck, either positive or negative, good or bad, is something that happens to us. We think that luck is something that comes from the outside, that we have a God that is whimsical and may or may not bestow luck upon us. We believe that there's a universe filled with chance. We believe that there's somebody that might be stronger than us and stronger-willed, and therefore we will be subject to their opinions. It's just the luck of the draw. Or, let's think about luck a different way. What if luck is an attitude? What if luck is just a way to place our consciousness? It's a conscious way of placing our consciousness either in a positive mindset or a negative mindset. What if luck was an opportunity to apply spiritual law? What if it was an opportunity to say, what kind of mindset do I want when I'm walking into a new situation? What kind of mindset do I want to have when I wake up in the morning? What kind of mindset do I want? So I'm wondering. In the year 2003, a British psychologist by the name of Dr. Richard Wiseman published a book called The Luck Factor. And in it, he had, through his 10 years of research and all of his experiments, come up with 4 factors that he said had everything to do with luck. Now, I haven't read the whole book, but I've read part of the book, and I've watched some YouTubes, and here's what I've concluded. That those 4 factors are actually applications of spiritual law. They are an opportunity to set our mindset. And here's the first one. Have a positive attitude of expectation. The teacher he positively expected his students to be geniuses. And they were. In Unity, we don't receive what we want. In Unity, we know that we don't receive answers to prayers. In Unity, we know we receive what we expect. So if we expect great things, we will receive great things. If we expect not so great things, then we're going to receive not so great things. That principle, he might have wanted those students to perform. He might have prayed for those students to perform, but he certainly did not expect those students to perform. And how many times in our lives have we started a project expecting it to fail? And it did. If that doesn't apply to you, how many times in our lives have we started a conversation that we expected to go badly, and it did? And it did. We tell ourselves stories. Jean Houston says, if you keep telling the same sad, small story, you will keep living the same sad, small life. Eric Butterworth says, God's plenty is like Niagara Falls, and we take our sad, small, little tin cup up to God's plenty, up to Niagara Falls. Well, why don't we take a 1-gallon milk jug? Why don't we take a 5-gallon bucket? Why don't we take a 10-gallon drum? Why don't we just take an entire energetic network like the pipelines we have crisscrossing the United States? Do you know there's 2.5 million miles of pipelines? Why don't we take that to Niagara Falls? Why don't we take that consciousness with us when we say, I expect to live in my abundance. I expect good health. I expect that conversation to go well. I expect my project to succeed. Factor number 2 is positive attitude for maximizing opportunities. In his book, Dr. Wiseman says this: lucky people are often convinced that their opportunities are the result of pure chance. They just happen to open newspapers at the right page, happen to come across the right page on the internet, happen to walk down the street at the right time, or go to a party to meet the right person. But my work revealed that these seemingly chance opportunities are the result of lucky people's psychological makeup. In other words, their consciousness. The way they think and behave makes them far more likely than others to create, notice, and act upon chance opportunities in their lives. I discovered that being at the right place, it says that, at the right time, is actually all about being in the right state of mind. So being in the right place and the right time is all about being in the right state of mind. I about fell off my chair when I read that. It was like the good news is spreading around the world. Right place, right time, right attitude. One of the most perfect examples I can think of is about Jesus feeding the 5,000. There he was, he preached all day, the people were hungry. Some little boy walks up and says, I've got 2 fish and 5 loaves. And Jesus says, I have 2 choices. Now in Wiseman's paradigm, it would be I have a choice to feel lucky or feel unlucky. And in the Unity paradigm, I have the choice to be in abundance consciousness or lack consciousness. And I think in our lives we go, I have the choice of being encouraged or discouraged. Because very often when we come into a situation and we go, I'm so discouraged, how will I ever get out of this, or how will I ever handle this? Because I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough skill, I don't have enough experience, I don't have enough connection, I don't have enough. Instead of going, wow, we've got 2 fish and 5 loaves. This is awesome. I'm going to bless what I've got. I'm going to give thanks for it. And don't you know, the law works. The law of mind action, expansion, increase, sequence, and consequence. As we bless what we've got, we get more. That's how the law, this is like awesome news. We're maximizing whatever possibility, whatever opportunity is right in front of us. We give thanks for our very way of being. Wow, I feel this much confident. I'm grateful that at least I feel this much confident. I'm this healthy. I'm so grateful I feel this healthy. And then we get more confidence, and we get more health. And if we're thinking, I have this much prosperity, isn't that awesome? Then we get that much more. The law works with mathematical precision every time. Whether we're holding positive thoughts or negative thoughts, whether we're encouraged or discouraged, whether we're thinking a consciousness of abundance or a consciousness of lack, whether we're feeling lucky or unlucky. Dr. Wiseman, in one of his experiments, took 2 people, Brenda and Martin, and he'd given all his participants a questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, he was able to determine whether the person had a mindset like Brenda of being unlucky all the time, or a mindset like Martin, who was lucky with everything he did. And he set up this experiment at a coffee shop. Outside the coffee shop was opportunity number 1. You got to remember they're in England, so there was a 5-pound note, which is a good amount of money. It's more than $1, sitting right outside the door. And inside the coffee shop, he set up 4 tables. He had 4 different people sitting at those 4 tables. They were all given the same instructions, except one of the people was dressed like a successful businessman. So Brenda and Martin got their own times, and the experiment commenced. So Martin, he comes up to the door of the coffee shop, he looks down, he's like, 5 pounds, score. He picks it up, he goes in, he buys himself some coffee. All the tables are occupied, but he decides he's going to sit with the successful businessman-looking person. He immediately introduces himself, offers to buy the guy some coffee. They sit and they chat and they have a wonderful conversation, and then Martin goes off on his way. And later, they get ready for Brenda. They put a new 5-pound note on the floor, on the ground right outside the door, and here comes Brenda. She steps right over that 5-pound note and she goes and orders coffee. She didn't even see the money. She orders her coffee and she looks around, all the tables are filled. She sits down to the guy who looks like a successful businessman. But she sits there and she doesn't say a word to anyone. And eventually she leaves. So now Dr. Wiseman's interviewing them and says, what kind of events did you have happen this morning? And Brenda just looks at him blankly and said, nothing. There was nothing remarkable about my morning at all. What are you talking about? Should something have happened? I thought something was going to happen, but nothing happened. And then he asks Martin, and Martin's like, well, first I found this 5-pound note, and then I went in and I bought some guy coffee, and we had the most exciting conversation. It was so much fun. I had the best day. So they were given the same opportunities, but one of them had a different mindset. So same opportunities, different mindsets, different attitudes, and vastly different experiences. Vastly different experiences. Eric Butterworth says, if you really believe you are entitled to the fullness of the kingdom, the resulting outpouring may appear to be miraculous, for wonderful things can and will be done. But it is the natural fulfillment of divine law. The healing you long for, the overcoming you desire, the prosperity and successes you have been praying for so persistently, even though you may feel there are fantastic odds to overcome. These things do not call for miracles, but for the disciplined application of divine law and the steady effort to know God. That steady effort to know God is our choice to look inward to our Christ nature and come from that consciousness. So not coming from a consciousness outside of ourselves, but coming from our own divinity, coming from our own wholeness, coming from our own completeness, coming from a positive attitude that as we expect, not miracles, but divine outworking of the law and our willingness to be disciplined in the application of that law, that's what creates luck. That's what creates positive, healthy, wholesome outcomes, positive, healthy, happy relationships, positive, healthy, happy prosperity and abundance in our lives. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of religious science, says, we exist in limitless opportunities. That's our come from. We exist in limitless opportunities. Myrtle Fillmore, who's the co-founder of Unity, says, we can't ask God for something. God has already given us everything we want and need. Our job is to affirm our health, to affirm our prosperity, and to expect that to come into our lives. So here's the affirmation, well, the review. And this is part 1 of 2 with Martha Creek in the middle. So we'll have part 1 today, 2 weeks, we'll have part 2. We're going to get to the other 2. Positive attitude of expectation, positive attitude for maximizing opportunities, and here's our affirmation. I exist in limitless opportunity. God has already given me health and prosperity. I expect my good to appear. And we could say, I expect my good to appear today. Shall we say that together? I exist in limitless opportunities. God has already given me health and prosperity. I expect my good to appear today. That's something for us to take into meditation. We're going to sing, I am holy light, because we are holy light. We're perfect, we're whole, we're beautiful, we're powerful, we're strength, we're love. We're all those things. Oneness that we fully immerse our being. One with light, love, and wisdom. One with strength, faith, and imagination. One with power. And one with understanding. fully immersed. We rest on this foundational truth of our being. Light, love, strength, power, beauty, joy. Our soul lives here in the holy and sacred silence.